A silent cry, the distress signal traveled across the dark emptiness of space, carrying with it the desperate hope of an entire civilization. The Velran people had sent it from their home planet Velar, a world of blue oceans and green forests that was now burning under the attack of merciless invaders. Elder Cole stood in the communication center, his three-fingered hands shaking as he watched another city fall on the monitors. The Velran were peaceful beings, tall and thin with silver skin that glowed faintly in the dark. For thousands of years, they had lived as traders and artists, never building weapons, never preparing for war. They believed that kindness would protect them. They were wrong. The Drawl had come 6 months ago. These warriors were brutal and efficient, their red armor stained with the blood of countless worlds. They wanted Velar's rich mineral deposits, and they did not care about the people who lived there. Any response to our signal? Cole asked his communication officer, a young Velran named Ren. Ren's face showed no hope. The Korthan Empire received it. They sent back one message. Your situation is regrettable, but we cannot spare resources for such a distant conflict. Cole felt his heart sink. The Korthan were one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. If they would not help, who would? What about the Nexus Council? Cole asked, though he already knew the answer. They said we are too far from their protected zones. They suggested we surrender and negotiate with the Drawl for better terms of occupation. Surrender. The word tasted like poison. Cole had seen what the Drawl did to populations that surrendered. There would be no negotiation, only slavery and death. Send the signal again, Cole ordered. Broadcast it to every corner of the galaxy. Someone must hear us. Someone must care. Across the galaxy, dozens of advanced species received the Velran distress call. They all made the same calculation. The Velran had no military power. They had no strategic value. They were simply too weak and too far away to matter. One by one, they turned away and returned to their own concerns, but 50,000 light-years away, in a small corner of the galaxy that most civilizations barely noticed, the signal reached a different kind of listener. Captain James Cole sat in his chair on the bridge of the Earthship Horizon. He was a man in his 40s, with tired eyes and gray hair at his temples. He had spent 20 years in space, first exploring, then protecting Earth's interests in this strange new galaxy they had joined only half a century ago. Captain, we are picking up something unusual, said Lisa, his tactical officer. She was young and sharp, always the first to spot trouble. What is it? A distress call. It's weak, very far away. The language is being translated now. Lisa paused, listening to her headset. Captain, it's bad. An entire planet is under attack. They're asking for help. Tom, the ship's engineer, spoke up from his station. Sir, that signal has been broadcasting for weeks. It's been heard by the Korthan, the Nexus, and a dozen other major powers. None of them responded. James felt something cold settle in his stomach. Show me their location. A holographic star map appeared in the center of the bridge. The Velran system was a tiny dot in a region filled with hostile territory. To reach it would take weeks, maybe months. The horizon was just one ship with a crew of 200. What could they possibly do? Captain, Lisa said carefully, this isn't our fight. Earth Command would probably tell us to avoid it. James stared at the map, thinking about all the reasons why they should ignore this signal, just like everyone else had. But then he thought about something his father had told him long ago. The measure of a person is not what they do when everyone is watching, but what they do when no one else will. He made his decision. Set course for the Velran system, James ordered. Maximum speed. His crew stared at him in surprise. Sir, Tom said, we'll be going in alone. No backup, no support. James nodded. I know, but someone has to answer. plot the course. As the horizon turned toward the distant star system, the distress signal continued to echo through the void. For the first time in weeks, it would not go unanswered. Humanity was coming. Humanity's answer, the journey to Veller, took 3 weeks. During that time, James and his crew prepared for what they knew would be an impossible fight. They had one ship against an entire invasion force. The odds were not in their favor. "Status report," James said, as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Veller system. Lisa studied her screens, her face going pale. "Captain, I count 47 Droll warships in orbit around the planet. Their ground forces number in the hundreds of thousands." Tom whistled low. "And we have 200 people and 1 ship. Great odds." James looked at the burning planet on the main screen. Even from space, he could see the orange glow of fires spreading across the continents. "Get me a communication line to the planet. Let them know we're here." Minutes later, Elder Cole's face appeared on the screen. The Velrin leader looked exhausted, his silver skin dull and marked with ash. When he saw James, confusion crossed his features. "Who are you?" Cole asked. "Captain James Cole of the Earthship Horizon. We received your distress call." Cole's eyes widened. "Earth? I do not know this world. You are not part of any major power?" "No," James admitted. "We're fairly new to the galaxy. Only been out here about 50 years. Then why did you come?" Cole's voice broke slightly. "The great empires ignored us. Why would a young species risk themselves?" James met his eyes. "Because you asked for help. That's enough." For a moment, Cole said nothing. Then tears began to fall down his silver face. "You came. After all this time, someone finally came." "We need to meet," James said. "Can you get us safely to the surface?" Cole nodded quickly. Yes. I will send you coordinates to our last remaining command center." An hour later, James stood in a bunker deep beneath the Velrin capital city. The walls shook regularly from explosions above. Cole had gathered what remained of his government, a dozen frightened leaders who looked at the humans with desperate hope. "Show us everything," James said. "Their positions, their tactics, their patterns." Wren brought up holographic displays showing the Droll forces. James studied them carefully, with Lisa and Tom at his side. The Droll were efficient and brutal, but James noticed something. "They're predictable," Lisa observed. "Same attack patterns every time. Heavy frontal assault. Overwhelming force." Tom nodded. "They win through pure strength. They've probably never faced serious resistance." James felt a plan forming in his mind. That's their weakness. They expect everyone to fight like they do, or to just surrender. They don't expect creativity. "What are you thinking, Captain?" Cole asked. "We can't beat them in open battle," James said. "But we don't need to. We just need to hurt them enough that staying here costs more than leaving." Over the next 2 days, the humans worked with the Velrin to prepare. The Velrin knew their own planet better than anyone. They showed the humans old mining tunnels, underground rivers, and hidden paths through the mountains. James and his crew taught them things the peaceful Velrin had never considered: ambush tactics, guerrilla warfare, and the art of making your enemy afraid. The Droll commander, a massive warrior named Grath, was confident. His forces controlled 90% of the planet. The remaining Velrin would fall within days. He sent a battalion to finish the job. Expecting an easy victory, they walked into a nightmare. The first Droll troops entered what they thought was an empty valley. Hidden charges placed by Tom's engineering team turned the valley into a killing zone. Rocks fell from above. The ground collapsed into old mining shafts. The Droll found themselves trapped, confused, and under fire from positions they could not see. When reinforcements arrived, They found their landing zones covered in traps. Stolen Drawl equipment turned against them. Human-designed diversions split their forces apart. And everywhere they looked, they saw something that confused them. Humans fighting alongside the Velrin, refusing to retreat even when outnumbered. Graf watched from orbit, growing increasingly frustrated. His soldiers reported strange tactics. The humans did not fight with honor. They used tricks and deception. They struck and vanished. They turned the Drawl's own strength against them, but what disturbed Graf most were the reports of human behavior. His soldiers said the humans fought with a reckless courage that made no sense. They charged impossible positions to save wounded Velrin. They held defensive lines they should have abandoned. When captured, they looked their captors in the eye and showed no fear. The battle for the capital city lasted 3 days. James led the defense personally, coordinating human tactics with Velran knowledge of the terrain. Lisa directed fire teams with precision. Ton's traps and barriers slowed the Drawl advance to a crawl. On the 3rd day, something unprecedented happened. The Drawl began to retreat. Graf sat in his command ship, staring at casualty reports. He had lost a quarter of his ground forces. His ships remained undamaged in orbit, but the cost of taking this planet was rising beyond acceptable levels. And all because of one ship of humans who refused to know when they were beaten. He gave the order to withdraw Dot in the bunker. Alarms suddenly went silent. Ren looked at his monitors in disbelief. They're leaving. The Drawl are pulling back. They're actually leaving. The room erupted in shocked celebration. Velrin embraced humans, crying tears of joy and relief. Cole gripped James's hand with both of his own. "You saved us," Cole whispered. "You actually saved us." James was exhausted, covered in dirt and blood, but he managed to smile. "We all saved each other." As the Drawl ships vanished into faster-than-light travel, a new signal began spreading across the galaxy. This one did not carry a plea for help. It carried a story that would change everything. Asterisk, the galaxy takes notice news traveled fast in the galactic community. Within days, every major civilization knew the impossible story: humanity, a species barely 50 years into space exploration, had driven back the Drawl from Velar, the Drawl, who had conquered 18 worlds in the last decade. The Drawl, whom no one wanted to fight. Ambassador Thane of the Korthan Empire sat in his office, reading the reports with growing disbelief. His scaled hands gripped the data pad tightly. "This cannot be accurate," he said to his aide. "One human ship against an entire Drawl invasion force? The reports are confirmed, Ambassador. Multiple sources. The Drawl withdrew with significant casualties. The humans used unconventional tactics." Thane leaned back in his chair, troubled. The Korthan had ignored the Velran plea because it was not strategically valuable. It was a decision based on cold logic and centuries of calculated politics. But now the humans had done what the mighty Korthan would not. He was not alone in his concern. In the grand chambers of the Nexus Council, 12 species gathered in emergency session. Counselor Vex, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline form, spoke first. "We must understand what happened at Velar. If humanity possesses some unknown military advantage, we need to assess the implications." "They have no advantage," replied Counselor Marr, whose 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "We have studied their technology. It is adequate, but not exceptional. Their ship was outgunned 50 to 1. Then how?" Vex demanded. No one had an answer. Within 2 weeks, both the Korthan Empire and the Nexus Council sent delegations to Earth. They arrived in massive ships, displaying their power and importance. They expected to meet with military commanders, to analyze battle strategies, to understand the human advantage. Instead, They met James Cole in a simple conference room at Earth's orbital station. Ambassador. Fane looked at the tired human captain with barely concealed disappointment. You are the one who commanded at Veller? I am, James replied. We have studied the battle records, Counselor Vex said, their voice humming through their crystalline form. Your tactics were effective, but not revolutionary. Your technology was inferior. Your numbers were laughable. Yet you won. We must know. What weapon did you use that we do not possess? James looked confused. Weapon? We used standard plasma rifles, some explosives, and a lot of improvisation. Then what was your advantage? Fane pressed. James thought for a moment. I guess we just cared more. The silence that followed was profound. Double quotes. You cared? Mars' four eyes all focused on James with intensity. The Velrin needed help, James said simply. Everyone else had the power to save them, but chose not to. We had less power, but we chose to try. That's the difference. Fane felt something uncomfortable stirring inside him. Captain Cole, you risked your crew, your ship, and potentially your entire species' reputation for people you had never met. This is not logical. Maybe not, James agreed. But it's right. The delegations returned to their governments with reports that satisfied no one. The humans had no secret weapon, no special technology, no hidden advantage. They had simply decided that helping others mattered more than the cost. It was a philosophy that made the established powers deeply uncomfortable, but it resonated with others. Within a month, 7 smaller species sent messages to Earth. They were worlds like Veller, peaceful and vulnerable, ignored by the great powers. They asked if Earth would consider defensive alliances. They offered trade, knowledge, and friendship. Earth's government was overwhelmed. They had expected to spend centuries working their way into galactic politics. Instead, they found themselves at the center of a growing movement. The Vellerin were the most enthusiastic supporters. Elder Cole came to Earth personally, becoming the first alien ambassador to live on humanity's home world. The bond between Vellerin and humans grew strong, built on mutual respect and the memory of standing together when it mattered most. 6 months after Veller, another distress call reached Earth, this time from a species called the Mysterin, facing a different threat. The response was immediate. 3 human ships departed within hours. In the Corthan Empire. Ambassador Thane watched this development with mixed feelings. The humans were building something new in the galaxy, an alliance based not on power or strategic value, but on simple mutual support. It was inefficient. It was illogical. It was working. Should we be concerned? His aide asked. Thane considered the question carefully. The humans were not building an empire. They were not seeking dominance. They were simply answering calls for help that everyone else ignored. No, Thane finally said. But perhaps we should be embarrassed. On the horizon, now leading a small fleet of Earthships, James Cole stood on the bridge as they approached the Mysterin system. Behind him, Lisa prepared tactical plans. Tom checked the ship's weapon systems. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, ready to face whatever came next. Another distress call coming in, Captain, Lisa reported. The Palin system under attack by raiders. Log it, James said. We'll help them as soon as we finish here. Tom grinned. We're becoming the galaxy's emergency service. James smiled. Someone has to be. For too long, the strong only helped when it benefited them. Maybe it's time someone showed a different way. As the horizon entered the Mysterin system, the distress signal finally went silent. But it was not the silence of despair. It was the silence of hope answered. Across the galaxy, the weak and vulnerable no longer cried into the void. They called to humanity, and humanity responded. The plea had echoed in silence for too long. That silence was finally broken. Asterisk.